I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
No mercy in this world, just hunger-thirsty persons in different versions. Each new update, that shit worsens. Why? Pull back the curtain and you'll see the different vermin. We all have different burdens that all seem to cause disturbance. Yo, so do me a favor, don't treat me like a neighbor. Don't need the different flavors of your problems just to savor. I've got my own issues, I need a comb to get through. Don't need to groan with you, just go get your own tip.
What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you are watching. It's your girl, Choose, and we're going to talk about this notion that I've been saying for a while now, just looking here and looking there. And I don't know if this is supposed to be a movement or what. I know that there are people who are saying, "Yeah, this is what it is," and then there are people that are saying, "Yeah, that's not it." So I just wanted to come here to just kind of talk through what decentering is. And then, I mean, we can touch on the topic of decentering men, but decentering in general. So we got red pill, blue pill. I'm trying to do purple pill. Let's mix them up. Let's mix them up and figure it. So yeah, I'm not sure what, I've seen little snippets here and there, but what we're going to do here on this beautiful Saturday evening, I should say, is I'm just going to go through what I see as decentering. If we want to go with decentering men, let's go ahead and do that. But let me just give my thoughts on this whole, I don't know, movement. I don't even know what to call it. But and then let's have some live conversations from here. We just want to start making sure that, we're at least on the same page, that you all know where I'm coming from. So yeah, so decentering. I put a couple different definitions up here, and the first one I have is to cause, to lose, or shift from an established center of focus, center or focus. The next one I have is the cognitive ability to view a situation from multiple perspectives or detach from one's own personal viewpoint. Decentering. The third one that we have here is the ability to step back from our thoughts and emotions, observing them as temporary events in our minds rather than absolute truths that define us. And I would use a quick example of, oh my goodness, all men lie, or vice versa, all women are gold diggers. So if we detach from that thought or that emotion, we would look at things just a little bit different. Even if it's, you know, some men or that man is a liar or some women or woman, is a gold digger. Just we're just getting started. So, um, any of a variety of techniques aimed at changing one's centered thinking to open-minded thinking. Decentering involves techniques used to move from ventured thinking, again, to open-minded thinking. So, what are we what are we saying? Examples. Example, when a person is identified with their experience of fear, they may verbally relate to it by noting, I'm afraid. However, when separating self from fear, they may relate to it by simply noting, I have a feeling of fear. So there are, that does a lot in case we haven't talked about that before. Let's make sure that we get the little points in now. But that, with anything, is a very good tool to use. I am afraid. I'm scared. I never things never work out. When we decenter ourselves, take ourselves away from what we're feeling. So we are not that thing, but we are feeling that thing. So that kind of gives us an opportunity to look outside ourselves and notice that, or notice what we are feeling and that it's a feeling. So, with that being said, I wanted to make a note that I have seen that there are misconceptions about the decenter men movement, which has led to a lot of backlash or confusion, and it kind of depends on who you listen to with it. So we're going to go into some of the misconceptions first before we start to really delve into it so that we can have a full understanding. But decentering men means excluding or hating men. That is a misconception. Now, some people do believe that decentering men is synonymous with rejecting or avoiding or just actively opposing men. But the reality is, decentering men is not about erasing them from whether it's a personal or professional space, but it's about shifting the default focus away from male validation and male influence. And let me make a break right there because ladies, I'm not talking about your husband or these trivial things that come to mind where we make it about a person. So it's always about us. So it's about broadening perspectives and making space for self-defined goals and agency. So self-agency. We are in charge of ourselves, period, regardless of what we're believing. So let's go to another misconception. Women who decenter men don't want romantic relationships. That is a misconception because people do assume that decentering men means rejecting relationship, rejecting marriages, or just intimacy from a man in general. I've heard that the decentering men movement, for lack of a better word, I've learned that the movement is making people uh, label some ladies as lesbians. That I do know, some that are dibbling and dabbling or are a lesbian, but we're that's not everybody. There are a lot of women who are decentering, and I guess in this case we'll just say men. But when I think of decentering, I don't look at it as decentering this person. It's always myself for me. So anyway, moving on. The reality is decentering isn't about avoiding relationships. It's about ensuring that those relationships aren't the sole or primary source of our happiness, our self-worth, or decision making. So women who decenter men, they still date and pursue romantic connections. It does not mean that you are just done with men. It's, or I see it as, you're doing that with a stronger sense of self and personal fulfillment, because nobody, regardless of your gender, no one should go into any type of partnership, coupleness, relationship, marriage without having their own sense of person, their own sense of what you like to do. What Who are you? What makes you happy? What makes you not feel happy? What brightens your day? What makes your day worse? And not in relation to another person, if that makes sense. So to me, decentering is about self and not making basically anyone or anything your just sole reason for living, or I have to do this because this person said it. It's just, no, we have to be able to look outside of ourselves and say, hey, none of this is going to be with me. None of this was with me when I was born. None of this is going to be with me when I leave here. So, what are things that I can do to make sure that I'm fulfilled? What things do I look to do when I'm bored? Things like that. Said I wasn't going to go too deep into it, but things like that. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Decentering men is only for feminists and or radical thinkers. So some people think this concept applies to specific political or ideological groups. So, whether it's women or we're talking about politics and feminists and things behind that. But the reality is, anyone, regardless of their political stance, and I think I just really touched on this, can benefit from decentering if they feel that their self-worth or decision making has been like overly influenced by male approval. Again, it's about personal agency, it's about balance, not one size fits all, not that type of um, ideology, because we're all different people. We are not meant to have the same opinions. We are not meant to just choose this side or the other side. And because my rule is both slash and exist. Let's go to the next slide. What we got here? Decentering men means ignoring men's struggles. Definitely a misconception. Some people do argue that shifting focus away from men invalidates male experiences or struggles, when in reality, decentering does not mean dismissing men's issues. It means recognizing that the conversations, policies, and personal choices don't always have to prioritize a man's experience. Um, for we can just take something as simple as working in the corporate world. Obviously, as male and female, we have different experiences, but do I as a woman, have to talk about or measure my success by the male that can, um, you know, haul all of this stuff in one day and is productive when I'm over here doing paperwork. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. And that's why I gave that example, because it does not make sense to use others as a gauge for for where we are, where we should be, or even use what others say or or do. And that's pretty much what that's about. Now, another misconception is people think that decentering men means never considering men's options, and that's a misconception. People assume that decentering means disregarding men's perspectives entirely, and it really doesn't. It means not placing, and we're talking about in the decentering man space, it means not placing men's opinions above your own or allowing them to dictate your worth. And that's why I'm a little confused about the movement, and I'm saying movement because I'm not sure what to call it. I think that decentering again is about self, or it's in relation to self is a better way to say that. When we decenter anything, it helps us take a step back and look at what's going on and kind of see it from a uh, more more of a a regulated standpoint is what I want to say. And let's see, what did I miss here? Oh, yeah. Healthy relationships and discussion require listening to viewpoints, but decentering ensures that those viewpoints don't carry undue weight over personal choices. Kind of what I was just explaining, that we're basing what we do off of the male experience. I know that I saw someone playing a video of another person, a woman that said, she's a single mother, and she said she was so indoctrinated to in the church, and she didn't explain her full experiences, but she felt so indoctrinated that she, in having her children, although she knew she should have been married, and that would have been the best way for her to go, she did not marry, but she continued to have the same to have more children by the same man, because the way that she grew up, if you have babies by different men, it's on you. It's not on the man, it's on you. And that's one that's prevalent. That's one that I've heard all over. I can't even tell you, all over social media spaces. Just the popular thing is, well, you should have kept your legs closed, or you should have chose better. But in the wake of these Umars coming to light, in the wake of these children that are adult children that are telling their own experiences by themselves on their own, we are starting to see a different perspective, because what's been said for so long, we've never come up with a solution to that. And we've never, and I can say, I'm not going to say we, some of us have never fully held anyone, man or woman, accountable regarding what happens after that. We can have, and not we can have, these conversations have been going on for as long as it takes for a child to become a full-fledged adult. And here we are in 2025, and people are still basing single motherhood and who to date and where to date and how to date on, how many baby daddies do you have? Even if you have one, don't be a stepfather, blah, blah. It's just so much. It's just so much. And I'm going to take a little detour real quick and say, with the stepfather thing, I definitely, definitely heard that a lot. Like, don't be a stepfather. But then, there are certain rules where, oh no, widows are the exception for dating. But if and I'll put myself in here. So I'm a widow. I was raising four children. So did I deserve to? I mean, per these rules, did I deserve to date, or does the don't be a stepfather rule apply? I just, in listening to these spaces, I'm I had started to find so many inconsistencies, even with the logic and the whole ideology. Because how is a widow any different from a single mother whose child's father is alive? I mean, I haven't really heard an expansion on that, and so single mothers kind of all get lumped in together. But that's for another video. Let's get back on track. Oh goodness. Now, what is decentering? Let's make it plain. Now, and this is my opinion, and opinions are like polls. Everybody have one. So, in my opinion and experience, decentering is shifting focus away from a single dominant perspective, the ability to step back from emotions and thoughts, seeing them as temporary rather than absolute truths. It is a cognitive skill that allows individual situations from multiple perspectives. And that is also a whole other conversation in itself. There are so many people that still subscribe to this good, bad, this side, that side. And I mean, the only place that I subscribe to that is, it's God's side and the other side. But everything else, two things can be true at the same time. So that's just where I stand on that. So some key area of decentering and relationships. Yeah, I wanted to kind of go into some actual action steps to take when, if you're a person that is even wondering about decentering, or you've heard about decentering and you're like, yeah, this is some bull. I'm just gonna give you this is totally my perspective on what decentering means, and it's definitely not regarding men. I don't agree with the ways that I hear some people talking about it, but I totally do agree with some people in the ways that are taught that they do discuss it. I understand the confusion with people who are like, okay, what is this decenter man thing? So y'all just want to have one big, festival of women or whatever. But again, as I say, I take whatever's on the end of that decentering what? Nope, nope. How about just decentering in general. All right. So, yeah, recognizing personal value beyond relationships with men. But I would say beyond our relationships with anybody, we have to recognize our own value. Example, a woman who previously sought male approval for self worth now builds confidence through personal achievements and friendships. So, she's back in school. She completed that project that she wanted to complete. She took that dance class. She went to the coffee shop and, you know, talked to a few people and made a few friends. Something outside of someone else. A woman who once felt the need for validation in her appearance or career choices begins to make decisions based on her own passions and values. This shift allows her to cultivate a stronger sense of identity, reducing the emotional highs and lows that come with seeking approval from others. I hope, if nothing else stands out to you, that second paragraph is exactly what I would sum up the notion of decentering men. Cultivating a stronger sense of identity, which reduces the emotional highs and lows that come with seeking approval from others. And last bullet point here, decentering is an emotional sense, meaning shift from a mindset where one's self worth is heavily tied to, and that's what I was talking about, external validation, especially for men in this scenario, to a more internalized sense of value. This doesn't mean rejecting relationships with men, but rather ensuring that self esteem isn't contingent upon their opinions or attention. You get that? So they might, and you could even be married, and the notion of decentering is, you're talking to your spouse and you're like, oh, this this is a really beautiful day for us to go ride a bike. And your partner's like, yeah, it's a little cool outside for bikes. And instead of just listening to that, like, okay, I'm feeling disappointed. We go into, you don't want to do anything with me, and you don't love me, and da 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 da, and we can't seem to go and say, okay, I'll figure out something else to do right now until, maybe you'll be up for something else later. So, to me, decentering involves taking a step back and looking at things. So I do not know where these new scripts of just decenter man, we just kicking them out of our lives. We just, I mean, I don't know, but let's continue. Let's talk about decentering and social and cultural narratives. So many society norms place men at the center of success and happiness, whether through fairy tale romances, workplace dynamics, or leadership expectation. So decentering here means to recognize and challenge those norms, not by just dismissing men, not by saying, oh, you know what, lead them at that. What they got to say don't mean nothing, just lead them out of it. Nope, that's not what that means. It means refusing to measure your personal success based on whether it's a man or anybody else's perspectives or opinions. So, I did put an example in here. A woman in a dominated workplace used to soften her voice communication style to seem less aggressive and more palatable. However, after recognizing that this behavior prioritizes male comfort over her own authenticity, she began speaking with confidence and asserting her ideas without self censorship. This shift didn't create conflict, it creates balance. So, That means she didn't go from saying, you know what, I just talk too soft and that's no one's listening to me. It means, hey, you know what, this ain't me. This isn't me. It's not helping my work. It's not helping anything. So let me be myself. Let me ask questions. Let me confidently say what I think, even if I'm wrong. But be willing to, admit that I'm wrong if I am. And that's what helps create the balance. So I think just uh, I guess it's moving away because that's what I wrote here, moving away from male centered expectations and success and happiness. So just it's all about not relying on a male or any one person, two people, anybody for to determine your worth. You don't do that because we cannot expect ourselves in others, if that makes sense. I'll say it again. We cannot expect others to show up with the way that we would show up. They're totally, we're all different. And let's see, I have decentering during conflict resolution. So, when gender related conversations arise, decentering allows individuals to move away from that reactionary, emotionally charged response and engage in discussions with broader perspectives. And so when we decenter men, especially if we're having a conversation, and really this can go all over the board. We're having a conversation and it's getting, this person versus that person. What do we do? Engage in discussions that are outside those two people. If we're talking about about men, and focus on how do we create a plan, a system, whatever the situation is, how do we create a system where everyone thrives? So instead of arguing whether men or women have it worse in society, someone who's practicing mindful decentering might shift the conversation to the systemic issues, addressing the power structures rather than individual blame. And that creates space for more constructive dialogue and collective problem solving. I am seeing less and less and less of this on the internet. It's wild to me. I have never seen anything like I have seen before where it's oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and read this because I'm already going into it. So, decentering and conflict resolution is also avoiding reactionary emotional responses and focusing on larger perspectives. So, we're not screaming and yelling because something just triggered us. And if we are, let's say I'm a woman that I'm looking for a relationship, but I'm saying that I definitely I think I need to decenter men because every time I get interested in somebody, I fall pretty fast, and then my whole world is them, and I forgot what I used to like to do on my own, and all I want to do is be with them. And then if I'm not with them, I'm looking at the phone. If we ain't experienced it, we didn't heard it in the song. So uh, the example, instead of engaging in us versus them, someone focuses on fostering equity and individual agency. So instead of me just, you know, I'm all immersed in this person, I need to be like, okay, let's see, he went to go play golf or he went fishing. What am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? So I start to take back some of my individual agency by figuring out what it is that would suit me. What can I do in my spare time, because this isn't working. This doesn't make me happy if I am always up under this person with no sense of self, no hobbies of my own, job, whatever it is. And, that very much disrupts relationships. And when we don't decenter each other and just put our all in, and without, having anything else that, we know to do or remember to do. But I do want to get like I want to have a discussion with people. So we're gonna go live. I want to go live and talk about this further and in more generalities and in a broader perspective. So, but not gonna leave you without some solutions and some clarification, just the way that I see it. Um, when we're decentering anything or anyone, it's about doing it mindfully. It's not about exclusion, it's about creating balance. It allows for healthier relationships, stronger self identity, and more open minded engagement with the world. Techniques, mindfulness, self reflection, boundary setting, all of these things have to do with decentering. Not that, again, since, we're talking about decentering men, that movement, it's not about, we don't listen to nothing these men say, and they just all full of it, and that's just it. Not, and that's no, that's not decentering. So when we take a step back to be mindful, to reflect on our ways, ourselves. This is why we do hear men say there's no accountability. There's a lack of accountability among some women. And there is also a lack of boundary setting. We don't have boundaries. And lastly, for me, decentering is or should be a tool for empowerment, not division. So when we're saying, well, you know what, we're decentering men because, or all men, because all men just ain't ish. You're not decentering anyone. It same thing applies with uh, male to woman. I'm decentering women. Blah 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 blah. If it's if it's divisive, then that's not decentering. You're just basically closing your mind and closing yourself to relationships. And I'm talking to all genders. And I'm talking not just romantic relationships, but friendships, professional relationships. You just have to learn to take a step back. And why? Because it helps us cultivate self sufficiency. Not only that, it helps us have more diverse perspectives instead of just, thinking one way all the time. It allows us to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. It allows us to step outside of ourselves. It allows us to look at things from different angles and say, what if we did this like this? Or what if I approached this a little bit differently? I understand that I'm having some feelings of anger, but I really don't have to go to this microphone and yell at everyone or yell at whomever because I'm angry. I should think about some ways that I can get my point across without doing all of that, without the risk of shutting other people down, without shutting myself down because I just have one thing I want to say and I'm not listening, which that's where we can't have conversations. And that's what opens up conversations. So, lastly, I just want to say that the conversation should indeed focus on balance, not erasure of people. If we're talking about decentering men, if we're talking about decentering anything, I'm going to give my final opinion on the whole decentering issue. I believe that when we decenter ourselves from a person, place, or thing, that involves looking at ourselves and assessing what it is that we need in that moment, at that time, to get us to a place of understanding with another person or understanding a thing, understanding how someone works. It just really is always helpful, just in general, to take a step back before you, react, because we have two ears and one mouth. There's a reason for that. If we listen more than we speak, a lot of times if we can't find common ground right away, listening, choosing compassion when listening to other people, it at the very least it reduces conflict. And right now in this world, just in general, I'm not even getting talking about the big stuff, politics and all this stuff that's going on in the world, but right now this person is against that person, and we just, and not all of we, but people are looking a mess out here. You know, we're we're hateful. We have our own problems, but we're attacking other people, and it's not about that. It's about ourselves. So, I want to have this discussion live, hopefully tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully you'll come join us so that we can, look at this thing for what it is. We cannot keep blaming another person, place, or thing where we have the power and the wherewithal to do what we need to do for ourselves, to understand, for ourselves to be in a better place. I'm just really, I haven't been able to really speak because I had to take a step back. I've been very upset, and I chose to, take some time to what it would be decenter and say, hey, you know what? I'm angry, but no, I'm having a lot of feelings of anger and disappointment. And as I close, I just wanted to acknowledge that I know that that feeling of anger and disappointment has been because we attack people, whether we realize it or not. I'm glad that one of my friends to the channel, Anton Daniels, he said, "Are we being too hard on single women or single mothers?" I should say. And I didn't really hear a specific answer other than like now. But I don't even think the question is that simple. Are we being too hard on one person versus another? Are we looking at all sides of a coin when we talk about one side? And, most importantly, everyone isn't one size fit all. So, in this notion of decentering men, all men are not the same. And this notion of single women, not all the same. This notion of if you do this, you're good, or if you like this person, you're bad or good. It's all stupid, guys. It's all stupid. When we talk about decentering, can we please remember that decentering actually means that we're the ones that need to take that step back. We are the ones that need to look within ourselves and see if we're looking at things optimistically, or I don't think that was the right word because you don't necessarily have to be optimistic. I think I meant to say objectively. Yes, that is the word that I meant to use. So we should step back and make sure that we are looking at things objectively. And once we can step outside of ourselves, once we can separate ourselves from whatever feeling it is, it really not only calms our mind, it's great on your mental health, it's great on your body. Cortisol levels are not as high because when we decenter, the point of it is to make sure that we have the bandwidth to continue on in whatever it is in a way that is conducive not only for us, but fair to those around us. And with that, I am going to leave you for today. Look forward to our next discussion. And until next time, you know what it is. We are sending love and light.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
That's it, the end of the song.